Hi everyone. In this video I'll be showing you how to update data present in MySQL table by using Spring Boot and Postman. So first I'll be showing you how to post data, and after that I'll be showing you how to update it. So let's get started. You need to just go to your browser and you need to search for Spring Initializer. You'll be getting this first link over here, Spring Initializer. Just click it, and here you need to add the dependencies as well as the name of your project and the versions. So I will go with Gradle Groovy, that is fine. Language is Java, and let me just now change the name as Spring Pro, something like that. You can just give it to everywhere. Yeah, you can just paste it and you can just change it here as well. Yeah, this is totally up to your choice, and jar is fine, and Java 17 works for me. So these are fine now. So we will be using some dependencies over here. So just click on add dependency, and first thing we need to search for Spring Web. Just add it, Spring Web, and I will click again add dependency, and next one is going to be the Spring Data JPA. So it's going to be Spring Data JPA. Here we will be having, and I will add the MySQL driver as well, MySQL driver, and final one is going to be Lombok. The reason why I'm adding Lombok is because we don't want to manually create the getters and setters or the constructors. We can just use the annotations present inside Lombok. So these are basically the four dependencies that I'm adding. So this is the entire stuff. All right. So once you are done creating all these, you need to just click on generate. So it will be getting downloaded in a form of a zip file. So here you can see, right, Spring Pro. So now let me just go to my downloads folder. So here you can see it is in a form of a WinRAR zip file. So just right click it and just click on extract files and just click on OK. So it will be getting extracted over here itself. Yeah, so here you can see this is the file. We'll be having source and main.test. So this is the .java file over here. Yeah. So this is the file. So now let me just open this particular folder as a project in IntelliJ. So for that, just go to IntelliJ IDEA, and after opening IntelliJ IDEA, you need to go to File, I need to go to Open, I need to go to Downloads, and here we will be having the Spring Pro, the Spring project. Okay, just click on that and click on OK, and just click on this window. So at first it will take some time to load, so just be patient. I think it will take some time for indexing as well as the Gradle to build, so just be patient at first. So here you can see it will be showing you updating index and importing Gradle. So Gradle build. So these two processes are really important, and you need to wait for some time until both the processes are getting completed. So here you can see now all the processes have been now completed, and there is no loading or anything like that. So first thing what we need to do is we will be just going to my main Java, and here you can see this is my main application over here. So now we will be making some changes in application.properties. So for that, where you need to go is you need to go to resources, and here you will be having application.properties. Just double click it, and here you will be having the application.properties. So first we will be adding our local URL of our MySQL database. So it's going to be spring dot data source dot URL equal to jdbc colon mysql colon / localhost colon 3306 / and next you need to specify your database name that is going to be present in your MySQL workbench. So I will just name it as new DB, and you need to specify colon 3306 because this is not like the random port number. This is the port number where MySQL workbench is running. So be specific to that. So once you're added your database over, you need to create this particular database in MySQL workbench. Otherwise, it will throw you an error. So I will just go to my MySQL workbench and create this particular database new DB. And if I just now refresh it over here, I'll be having the database created. So this is fine. And next thing we need to specify the username and password of your MySQL database. So let me just now copy this thing. So it's going to be spring.datasource.username. I need to specify the username, which is root for me. This may vary from person to person. And again, spring.datasource.password. So you need to specify your password. Let me specify mine. So this is fine. These are some of the credentials that we need to give over here. So after this, we will be using some connections or properties for our connection. So it's going to be spring.jpa.show -SQL equal to true. So this command is basically like used to display the SQL command in our console. So I told you like we will be creating a table at the end. So the creation of that particular table and its SQL command will be displayed at the console. So that's the reason why we are adding this particular property. And next thing are going to be some of the default properties. Okay, it's going to be spring.jpa.generate and -ddl equal to true. Next one is going to be spring.jpa.hibernate.ddl.auto equal to update. And final thing, let me just now copy this and paste it. Dot properties dot hibernate dot dialect equal to org dot, you'll be having hibernate dot dialect dot ISQL8 dialect. Okay, so here you have to be careful. M is capital, Y is small, SQL or caps, 8, D is capital, and dialect. So once you're done adding all the values in application.properties, you need to come to the folder where you have your main Spring application. Okay, so by default the name would be com dot, it will be your project name. Okay, so you have to just right click over here and we will be adding like 4 folders or directory. So the names of the folders is going to be entity, repository, controller, and service. Okay, so it will sound confusing. I will just create them first. So it's going to be new, and here we will be having an option called as package over here. Just click it. So first I will be creating the entity folder. Okay, just capital E, type entity, just hit enter. Okay, so after that we'll be getting this entity. So don't make any changes. Okay, don't rewrite that particular thing. Okay, so again after right clicking I will be going with package. So what I meant was here we'll be having a dot. Okay, so don't just remove that. And next thing is going to be the repository. Yeah, and next one is going to be controller and the service. It's going to be the service. So it's not necessary to have like this folder structure, but it's always good to implement. So it's more easy to read your code. In companies generally they will have this way. So it's always better to practice having separate folders for each purpose of your file. So the final one is going to be our controller. So it's going to be controller. Yeah. So first we will be starting with the entity. So entity basically will have the Java file in which we will specify our table as well as its columns and its data members. Okay. So just click on entity, right click, new. You will be having this Java class. Click that. I will name the class name as student because I'm just going to like input student details as a demo purpose. Enter this class name. You can enter whatever you want. After that, just click on class and hit enter. So here we will be having the student class created for us. So through this class, we will be able to add properties and column names for our table that we are going to create in our MySQL. Okay. So just imagine this as a class representation of a table. Okay. Basically that's it. So first let me add the column names. Okay. After that I will go and annotating the particular main class. So it's going to be, I will have here 3 columns, which is ID, mark, and name. So it's going to be private, have it as int ID. So this is going to be like the primary key, the unique key. Yeah. So for representing it as a primary key, we will be having the ID annotation. Okay, ID, just hit enter. And I will also add a column name. Okay, so we can specify the column name manually as well by using the column annotation. Like if you want the default ID to be the column name, you can also have that. I will just have this. So just open bracket, have name, and I will just give it as ID. That's it. And for this ID to be auto incremented or auto generated value, we can just have the generated value function. Okay, yeah. So these are some of the standard stuff that everyone uses for a particular unique ID in the column. So next one is going to be the mark and name. So it's going to be private. It's going to be of type int and it's mark. Yeah. And same thing, column is going to be the loan annotation column, and name is going to be students mark, like that. And the final one is going to be the name, private. This is of type string, string with capital S, and I will put name, and it will also have the column annotation. Okay, column, I will have the name equal to, I will just go with the standard name, that's it. Yeah, no worries, this is now fine. So these are some of the columns that we'll be having in our table. So after doing all this, we need to also add some main annotations to our student class. Okay, so the first annotation is the entity. So entity is like we will be referencing Spring Boot that this particular class corresponds to that particular table present in MySQL DB. Okay, so that's what the entity annotation does. It's important to have that. And next we will be using the data annotation. This is present inside Lombok. So whenever we are creating a class, we need to have all those getters, setters, as well as so many things are there. But by using this data annotation, this will automatically create all the getters and setters for each and every data member for our class. So always better to use Lombok and this data annotation. So after this, we will be also having the table. Okay, so this table annotation exactly similar to column annotation, by through which we will be referencing our table name. So this particular name that we will be specifying over here is going to be the table name in our MySQL DB. So I will just have a name it as, I will go with student underscore DB, something like that. Yeah, so this is now fine. So after this, we can also add the constructors. So it's going to be capital N, I guess. Yeah, the no org constructor. So same thing, we also need to create a constructor and initialize the values. So we need to have an empty constructor as well as a constructor with the data members value. So these are some of the standard stuff. So by using these annotations, we can like bypass those things as they are automatically done with the help of these annotations. So it's going to be all logs constructor. Okay, yeah, some of the standard things. So now we are good with our entity class. So after this, we will be creating a repository interface. So it is not a class, it is an interface. So which is also used to basically like reference to this particular entity. So it is like this. Okay, every entity of a table in Spring Boot will have a repository of its own, through which we will be able to execute queries and other stuff. Okay, so just imagine it as that way. So just come to your repository folder. Now we are done with our student.java. I will just close it. Okay, just close this as well. Yeah, and I'll just come to a repository, right click, new. It's going to be of Java class, but it's going to be of type repository. Okay, I will just name it as student repo. Okay, it's also always good to have in camel case. Just hit enter, and if you want to name this as student entity, you can also do that. Okay, just name it as student entity. It's your total choice. It will be more like readable and understandable if you have that way. In case of like you're having more number of files, since I'm having only one file, I will just name it as student. Okay, so that is good. So now let me come to my repository, and here you can see, right, this is an interface. Okay, this is not a class. So student repo, first thing we need to have extends. Okay, this is a keyword, extends, and after this we need to add the JPA repository, which is like an inbuilt class of Spring Boot. So it's going to be JPA, capital J. Okay, capital J. We will be having the JPA repository over here. Just hit enter. So through this way we will be able to perform all the CRUD operations to our database or entity. So just expand this. Okay, yeah, we will be having this greater than lesser than symbol, and within that we need to specify our class name of our entity. So my class name over here is student. Okay, so you need to specify that first over here. So it's going to be student. You will be having here, yeah, student, here it is. Okay, you need to specify the class name, and this will get automatically imported, and a comma, and here we need to specify the data type of the primary key of our student class. So student class is over here, and the data type of our primary key is of type integer. Okay, so you need to specify the data type of the primary key. So it's going to be obviously integers in 99 of the cases. Okay, 99% of cases. So just specify the data type of the primary key, it is integer. Okay, so that's it. Now we are done with our repository, and entity is also done, repository is done. So next thing we have only service and controller. So what service basically does is that it allows us to perform the post, save, put, fetch, all the operations. Okay, so I'll just go to service, right click it, and new, and this time it's going to be a plain Java class, not any interface or something. So I will just type it as student service. Always good to use camel case. Okay, use camel case everywhere. Okay, and I will just now hit enter. So we'll be getting the service. I will close the repository, and in the service we will be able to access the entity through the repository variable. Okay, So the repository object, we can't access an entity directly, okay? So only with the help of the repo, we will be able to access the objects or data members or the functions that are present inside our entity student. I hope that made sense. So in the service, the first important thing is we need to annotate the service, okay? So it's going to be at service annotation to reference it as a service class. So after this, we will be creating our reference variable or object of our repository. So as I told you earlier, we will be only able to access the student class details through the repository object, okay, with this help of the object of student repo. So I will create that, okay. So it's going to be private, the name is student repo, yeah. So I will name it as the small s, okay, student repo, yeah. This is a naming convention, okay. Whenever you are creating a variable, the first thing should be the class name itself, and after that the variable name should be the smaller letter of that particular class name itself. So it's like a common naming convention used. So we will be able to access only the values present in our main student class with the help of this variable or object, okay. Also you need to annotate with this auto void, okay, yeah. So this is used for basically like dependency injection or referencing our repository variable over here. So it's you need to use this auto void, otherwise you will be getting an error. Okay, so now we are done. So next thing we will be creating a function for saving or posting the data, okay, because that is our main aim in this video, okay. We need to post and save data in the database. So for that we will be creating a function. So it's going to be public. You need to create it as public, okay, because we will be using this function in our controller, okay. Controller will be having a Java class and we will be using that particular function over there. So it's always good to have our function as public. And the return type of this particular function is going to be of student, okay. Student means this particular class, okay, this main entity class. So it's going to be of type student. And next is the name of our function. I will have it as save details. You can name it as anything you want. And the function is going to have only one parameter. That parameter is going to be an object of the class student. So what I meant by object is that it's going to be like these things, ID, mark and name. So these are like data members, and this particular parameter will have all these values as an object inside it. So it's going to be student, yeah, student. I will go with the same naming convention, like with a small s after that, yeah, student. So after this we will be returning it, okay, because since we have used student over here, we have to return it. Return, we'll be using the repo name. As I told you, for accessing the values or saving anything, we'll be using the repo object or variable. So it's going to be return student repo dot, and here we'll be having so many functions, okay. So in that we'll be using the save. So this basically saves our data in our table, as simple as that, save. And inside that we will to pass our object, okay, student, this variable, okay, this variable over here. So this student will have all the details like ID, mark and name in our object form, and we are just saving it in the table. Simple. So now we are done with our entity, and the final thing that is left is our controller. So the main purpose of controller is defining the path and the operation. So here you can see, right, let me go to my Postman. So here you can see, right, we will be having so many operations: post, put, fetch and delete. There are so many operations, and we will be also having this particular path or the route, okay. Add student, for post we will be having, for put we will be having put, delete we will be having slash delete. So we will specify all these details in the controller. So just right click controller, new, we will be having the Java class, select it. I will just name it as what is a student controller, yeah, simple controller, like that, class, okay. Everything is class except repository, okay. And we'll be getting the student controller over here, and we will begin by annotating the controller class with rest controller, okay. So this is to specify that this is a controller class. So after that we will be creating a service variable, okay. So here in service, okay, in service we had an object of student repo. Exactly similar to that, in our controller we will be having an object of the service class, okay. So service class name is student service, okay. So I will just go to my controller. So it's going to be private student, I think it's capital S, yeah, student. We'll be having the student service, okay. So we'll be creating a variable of our service, okay, student service. I hope that made sense. This one, student service, yeah. And you can name it after that. It's going to be the same thing, the small s student service, yeah. And we will also annotate with auto void, exact same thing for referencing it, yeah. So we are done. And after this we'll be creating another function So here the main route or the path for our post operation will be specified. So as I told you, right, this particular path needs a function. Okay, every path will have a function to its own. So I'll just come here. The function, as I told you, it's going to be public. Okay, in most of the cases, public, and it's going to be of the type student. Okay, student as usual, the main entity, and it's going to be, I will have it as add details or post. Okay, post details. Okay, post details. That's going to be the name, and after that, this will take an argument. Okay, so this argument is going to be of type student. Okay, same student. Okay, same student everywhere, student, and the small s student. Okay, but we need to also add a particular annotation which is at request body. Okay, so the reason is because we will be sending data over here. Okay, we will be sending data from our postman. So where is that? This raw. Yeah, so we'll be sending a JSON data from our postman, and with the help of this request body, that particular data will be fetched by the student object. Okay, so once we are hitting that particular path, this particular data will be fetched by this particular function. Okay, so I will like add the path and it will make more sense after that. So in this function we'll be having at post mapping. So to reference that, this particular function will handle the post operation in this class or controller. So we need that post mapping. So in general, we will be using post mapping for post operations. So this will take the path. So I will go with add student. Okay. So now I hope it will make more sense. So this add student will come over here. Okay. Will come over here after this port number slash that particular add student will be coming here. So when I send the data as a request, this particular data will be then caught by this particular request body of student. Okay, then this student will have basically these details. So I hope now it will be clear for you. So in this function, exact same thing, we have to return it. Okay, so it's going to be return, and we'll be using this service, student service. So it's going to be student service dot, and with the help of the student service variable, we will be accessing this particular function inside our student service. You know this function, right? Save details we created earlier. So with the help of this variable that we have created in our controller, we will be able to access this particular save details function. Okay, so it will be dot save details. Within that, we will be pass the student variable. Okay, so that's the code. So now let me explain you how this works in a simple term. Okay, so I'll just close these things. Only the main thing is going to be controller and the service. Okay, rest are just standard stuff. So I will go to my postman. So I'll just explain it in a demo way. After that, I will run and show you. So we'll be adding the local host, the student, the path. After that, we will like have a JSON data, and whenever we hit send, this particular path slash student will be hit. Okay, so after hitting that, it will come over here. This path will be like, it will check whether we are having this add student path. So this particular path that we have sent in postman matches with this path. So it will come over here, and we are having the request body annotation with the student object. Okay, so this data that we have sent over here will be now present inside the student variable, this variable, with the help of this request body annotation. So after this student variable will be having these values. It will come over here. Here you can see it's student service dot save details student. So basically we are passing all this data to the save details function, which is present inside our service. Okay, so now I will go to my service, this particular save details function. So I will go here. The save details function is also having a parameter of student. Okay, so now this student will be referenced to as this student over here. Okay, it's like function calls basically. So what happens is that this data will now come to the function save details present inside our service from the controller. So it's like that. It's from the postman data to our controller function. From the controller function, it goes to our service function, and in the service function, we are just saving it with the help of dot save through our repo, like the repository variable that we have created earlier. So because of this dot save, it gets then saved in our MySQL workbench or database table. So this is the entire workflow. Okay, so this is how it will work. So now let me just run and show you this program. Okay, just come to this Spring Pro application. That is the main file. If you aren't having this run thing, just right click it and you just click on run project. And if you aren't having this edit configurations, I will just open it. So yeah, this is my edit configuration. Here you need to specify the Java, the main thing, and here you need to specify the working directory. So these are the standard stuff, and I will just now close it. And now in my database, okay, so this is my database. I will go to tables. I'm having only my table, so I'm not having the table, any table named as student. So here in entity, right, we have specified the table name to be as student DB. So if this program runs successfully, we need to get the student DB automatically created over here, and after that we will be sending some data from our postman. So I will just now run the code. I hope it works. Lot of effort into it, and I don't want to get any errors right now. So I will run it. So after some time, you will be getting some logs like this, and if you get this final thing as Spring application started, so which means that there aren't any errors. And here you can see, right, we will be getting some SQL commands over here as well. So here you can see, right, create table student DB. So if I just now go to my MySQL workbench, and if I just now refresh it, so here you can see that I will be having the student DB over here. So if I just now go to my select asterisk from, I will just run student, and I will go with underscore DB, and if I just now run it, we will be having 3 columns which is going to be of type ID, ST, mark, and name. So here you can see, right, where is that? Yeah, this particular name that I've specified over here will be directly coming to the column name, as simple as that. And another important thing you need to note here is that the port number on which your Spring Boot application is running. So if I just now come here, so here you can see, right, our Spring Boot has now started on port 8080. So this is like the default port. So now let's see what happens when we some post data from our postman, because that's our aim over here. We need to save data. Currently our table is empty. So for that, this is the port, okay? So just copy this 8080. So this is like a default port. So I will just come to my postman, and here we need to change this port to 8080. Okay, important thing. I will say you the important thing what we need to do. So it's going to be localhost colon 8080, and here we are going to do post data. So just click here the operation and change it to post. Really important thing, many people won't do that. And after that you need to come to body, and it will be none at default, I guess. Body none. You need to go to raw after that, and you need to have like this, okay, the format. I'm inserting here only name and mark values because my ID is auto-generated. As I told you, right, my ID value is auto-generated because of this generated value annotation. So that's the reason why I'm not referencing ID over here. I'm having only name and mark values sent as a request body. So you need to have raw, have name within double quotes, hello within double quotes, mark key within double quotes, and since 100 is of type int, no need double quotes to that. Okay, be careful there as well. After that, here also important thing, you need to have this type as JSON. Okay, you need to change this to JSON. I think it will be text by default. If you put text, it will give an error. So I have it as JSON, another important thing. And I think, yeah, that's it. These are the important things. Operation, and you need to change the path as well. So the path that we have specified in our controller, where is controller? Yeah, student controller. This particular path should come over here. You need to be careful with the cases as well. So I will just change it to some meaningful name. Okay, I will just put not meaningful, hello, hi, something like that, like this, and I will go with 1000 as the mark, some random thing. If I just now send it, so it's sending request. Yeah, so we have got the result over here. So we have got the result as a response because we are like returning it. Okay, here you can see that we have returned that particular thing, and we have got this thing. And if I just now go to my MySQL table and run it, so here you can see that I've got the value 1, which is auto generated. I'm not sending ID over here, and the name and mark are coming. So now that we have posted data in our table, let's see how to update the data present in the table. Okay, first let me just close all the files that are opened. Okay, so for updating the data, we will be literally making changes in 2 files. Okay, the 2 files are student service and student controller. So first I will make changes in the student service. I will just open my service. Yeah, so here I'm having my student service function which we wrote earlier. So I'll just now copy this exact same function. Okay, I'll just copy this exact same function and I'm just going to paste it. So first let me give you a brief walkthrough on how this particular thing is going to work. So we will just go to postman, and instead of having post data, we will have here update data. So I'm just going to put or update is same, but here we won't be having update data. We need to select put. Both are same actually, put and update. So we'll be selecting put, and we'll be passing the data over here. So this particular ID should be an existing ID in the table, and next this mark and name are the things that we will be going to update. So it makes sense, right? This ID is used to find which particular row in the table that we are going to change, and after that we can change the mark and name value present in the table, and we'll be sending this as a payload, as a request payload. So we'll be having body value, it won't be none, we'll be having body value, and in the code we'll be fetching this particular data that is sent, and we'll be making changes to that particular existing value. Okay, so that's going to happen in a nutshell. So now let's just go and code. So it's going to be save details. I'll just change it to update detail because I'm going to do for only one object. So we'll be passing a student, okay, type student, this is fine. So I'll just remove this thing, return statement now. So first thing, as I told you, we need to identify the row. We need to spot the row first because we are sending a ID, mark and name. So first thing, we need to spot which particular row we need to make changes, and after that we will be setting the mark and name by the updated value that we are passing from Postman. So this particular value from that we are passing from Postman will override the existing value in our table. So initial case, we need to find that, or we need to get an instance of that particular row. We will be accessing that with the help of the ID that we are passing from here. So I'm passing random ID. Just imagine I will be passing here 3, okay, rather than having 999, just imagine me passing 3. So we will be able to access this particular row with the help of this ID. So we'll be using find by ID. So I'll just now code and show you. Okay, so it's going to be of type student because at the end we'll be getting an object. So it's going to be student, and it's going to be, I'll say, update student is going to be the variable name, and it's going to be equal to our repository name, which is student repo. We only with the help of repository we will be able to access the data present in the table. Dot, as I told you, find by ID. So we'll be having find by ID over here, and inside this we need to pass the ID that we are passing from Postman, which is this ID. So we are passing it from request payload. So it's going to be this particular student. Okay, this value, this entire value will be coming over to this particular variable. So both are same. This student will contain this values. So it's going to be student, and we'll be having dot get ID. So that's how we get the ID present in that particular object. We can't write student dot ID. So this is not like JavaScript or something. So in Spring Boot, this is how we get the IDs. This student dot get ID corresponds to this particular ID that we are sending from our Postman. Okay, so this is now fine, and we need to also have a check condition over here. So what if I send some ID that is not even present in my table? So here I am, see, right, I am just having 3 and 4 ID in my table. So what if I send ID as 1000 or something? It will obviously throw an error because that particular ID is not present in my table. So we need to also have a condition to handle that case, in case if some ID is not present in my table. So we will be specifying or else null. Okay, so simple. In case if that ID is not present in our table, we will just pass null. That's it. We will just have the update student value as null if that particular ID is not present in our table. Okay, simple. And next line we will be having a if condition. So it's going to be if update student, okay, this particular variable not equal to null. So if that particular ID is present, which means that this particular ID is present. So only if the ID is present, we will update statement will be having some value. If that ID is not present in our table, our update statement value will be null because we have specified here or else null. So in case of our ID is null, we can just return the statement, right? So suppose I am sending here 1000. I'm sending the ID as 1000. This 1000 ID is not present in my table. So why should I perform any update operation for an ID which is not even present in my table? I can directly return ID is not present or null. Null is means same, right? So null means the same. So if that ID is null, if that update student is null, I will just put here return null. That's it. Because we need to pass of type student, right? So we can't pass a string. So it's going to be return null. So this is in case if we are having an ID which is not present in our table. So in case if you are having an ID, let's suppose that I am passing 3. So I am passing 3 which is present in my table. It will come here it will find the find by id. So find by 3 will be written over here, and it will fetch the instance of that object. So our update student will have this particular row in it. 3 7 cr7 will be present in our update student row, and inside this if condition will be true because update student has some value and it isn't null. So now we will do the set operation, that is like overwriting the values present in our existing table and updating it with the new values that we are sending from the postman. So here it's going to be our update student variable. So it's going to be update student dot set mark. So this is a setting that I told you, set mark, and this mark is going to have the new value that we are sending from the postman. So we need to set this particular mark that we are sending. This mark should come over there. So for that, exact same thing that we did. So for sending the ID from the postman, we did student.getID, which corresponds to this ID. So exactly for mark and name, we will be having student.getMark and student.getName. I really hope that made sense. Student.getMark, and for name also exact same thing. It's going to be update student dot, and within this we need to pass student dot get name. So you need to be careful, like this is set and this is get, you do not interchange this. So now we are done. So now this code will basically replace our existing row, existing mark and name of this particular ID with the ID that we are passing from our postman. Okay, these things. So now we are good, we are done with this now. So next thing we have to save it, right? So as you can see here, when we are like posting data, we just saved it, student report.save that particular object. Exact same thing also we need to do here. It's going to be student repo dot save, and inside that you need to pass our object. So our object is going to be update student. So it's going to be update student, and here we are having a return type as student. Okay, so we can just return this object itself, return update student. Okay, return update student. So this is the code. This is the code, guys. Yeah. Now we're done with the function. That is a service function. So next thing is going to be our controller. So as I told you, we will be making another change in the controller also. So here is our post. Just remove this print statement. Yeah. So I'll just now give some space, and I'll just copy the exact same thing and modify it. That's the simplest way. So just copy the exact post function that we had earlier. I will paste it. So we won't be using post mapping over here. For update, it's going to be put mapping. It's not update mapping, it's put mapping. So capital P, we will be having here put mapping, and for rather than having add student, we can have it as update student, and this is fine, and return type is going to be student, and we can just have update student details, anything. You can just literally name anything, your function. And we need to have here request body, super important thing, have request body, student, this is fine. And here we need to make another change. Rather than having student service dot save details, we need to call here our update function. Okay, so it's going to be update detail. So this particular function that we had written earlier, and this needs a student variable as a parameter. So here we will be having student. All right. Yeah. So now we are done with our code also. So I'll just stop this and now rerun it. You need to rerun it. Okay, so I'll just rerun the project now. Yeah, I think it's running, I guess. No, it's not running. Yeah, it's running now. So this is good. In the meantime, we can set up our postman. So just copy this path. Okay, you need to copy this path, post map. Yeah, and go to postman. And in this, we need to make some few changes, some important changes. So if you are having at none, you need to go to raw in the body option, and you need to have a JSON like this. ID should be there, mark should be there, and name should be there. ID, mark, and name should be in double quotes. And if you are having any integer value, no double quotes are needed. For example, 3 and 7, ID and mark are integer values, so I'm not specifying here any double quotes for the value. Whereas name is of type string, so you need to specify a value for name within double quotes like this. So body, and you need to have here the type as JSON format. So I think by default it will be in text. You need to change it to JSON format. So raw, body, and JSON, and you need to change this to put operation. Super important thing. Don't have it as post or something. And final thing, you need to just paste this path. Okay, that put mapping path. Just paste it. So if you want, I can zoom in a bit. zoom. Yeah, it's kind of zoomed, so it's going to be http:// we will just copy this path. Okay, so this is it. So we will be having just a single JSON. Okay, so I think our application has now started. Yeah, Spring application now started. So now let me show you how this is going to work, and after that I will send the data. So we'll be hitting on send, and this is going to be our request payload object. So once we hit on send, this particular function will be triggered. It will come here, come to this path, and this particular function will be getting triggered. And since we are using the request body annotation, this data that we are sending from our Postman as request body will be caught by this variable, request body student. So this particular student variable will have this JSON object within that. And after that, what we are doing, we are sending this student variable object to this function update detail, which is present inside our service. So update detail is called, and the student variable which contains the data present in our Postman is being sent. So this student will go here and comes here, and this student will have exactly the same data as our Postman that we are sending. Yeah, so it comes here, it only fetches the ID, that is this ID, and it finds the table. So in case of me, I am sending now 3. Just imagine I'm sending 3. So this, it will get the reference of this particular row, and it will have the object stored inside it. So this update student data will have that row, and here we are just setting the or replacing the mark and name with the updated data that we are sending from our Postman, and after that we are just saving it, and we're just returning update student. So this particular data, this updated object, will be sent as a response to our Postman. It will be appearing over here. And in case if you are sending any irrelevant ID that isn't even present inside our table, this particular thing will be null, this update student will be null, and this condition will be false. Nothing happens here, it just comes return null. That's it. This is in a nutshell how it works. Okay, so now let me just clear the console and I will send some data. So I'll just go to my table at first. I'm having 3 already, so I need to just change the value. It's 3 and 4, 7 CR7 already it is there. So I'll just go to my mark. I will just add some more 7s, and I will go with some Su. Yeah, it's fine. So if I send it this particular row, okay, I will go to my table. This particular ID with 3, 7 needs to get changed. So it's going to be like 4 more 7s need to get added over here, and it's going to be Su over here. So I'll just go to my Postman and send it. So here you can see that if I just now scroll down, I'm getting the response, and if I go to my MySQL table and I'm just click on this refresh query, so here you can see, right, it's changed instantly. And here you can see in the console we will be having that SQL query. So just select and update using where clause. Yeah, update student, set mark and name where ID equal to. So this query has been executed right now. So this is cool, right? So now if I send any irrelevant ID, I'll just go with, and I'm just sending 100. 100 isn't even present in our table there, right? 100 isn't present, only 3 and 4 are present. Yeah. So if I send it, I'll be getting nothing, literally nothing in my Postman response, because I'm sending null. So literally nothing, because we are sending their null. Yeah, in the code we are sending null. This will be null. Yeah, this update student will be null. Yeah. So this is the code, guys, and I hope you would have found this video useful. I've also run many other tutorials in Spring Boot MySQL, as far as post, put, update, delete, and fetch. I've done literally every CRUD operations in that. So do check the playlist of my channel. I've also run tutorials in C, C++, Java, Python, Node.js, React.js, MongoDB, MySQL, CRUD operations. Check them, subscribe me. Thanks for watching.